and this book is more about helping coaches maybe become better coaches. And I that's one of the reasons I had so much fun writing it. And I talk a lot about caring for your players, and different coaches do that in different ways.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a guy that's going around hugging all your players. That's not what. But I had, like, my high school baseball coach was phenomenal. I knew he cared for me, but he probably didn't speak 100 words to me during a season. But man, I knew he had my back, and when he did speak, it meant something.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there.
Makes our job easy as coaches that we don't have to worry about them because they do such a good job. But then as well off the field, like I said, we had our individual meetings last week to wrap up the fall. We have a lot of upperclassmen that are 3.8, 3.9, 4.0 students that are, teaching assistants in the biology department. And, so-and-so will come in and say, well, I might be struggling in my bio class, but so-and-so is, a teaching assistant in the bio department. And he's giving me tutoring every Tuesday night at 9:00. And it's like, wow, hearing that, we have upperclassmen that are taking underclassmen under their wing to help tutor and help with classes. Like I said, it goes so much farther beyond the field. To hear stuff like that as coaches really makes you appreciate and proud of your guys for what they do from within for your program. So, the leadership's definitely there on the field, but those are just the examples of off the field of what our leadership, our brotherhood, and our culture is like.
To be able to reach the highest levels of this game, you got to work hard. You got to get in the cages. You got to do your strength and conditioning. You got to throw your bullpens. There's all of this physical stuff that you need to do, and you need to work hard at it. But don't forget that you also have to get better at the mental side of the game. And one of the ways you can do that is increase baseball IQ by downloading and using the 6-Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use 6-Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at 6-tool.com. 6-Tool. Get ahead in the game.
So today's guest is a young coach who's already making a strong mark across multiple levels of college baseball. Coach Parker Lynn, assistant coach at Saint Vincent College. Parker joined the Bearcats in 2021, taking on a dual role as assistant baseball coach and manager of athletic facilities. In his very first season, he helped guide Saint Vincent to a 24-14 record and a trip to the President's Athletic Conference tournament, including a 20-6 mark in conference play. But Parker's journey in baseball has been far from ordinary. A native of Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, he spent the last several years climbing the coaching ladder from a student assistant at California University of Pennsylvania to a graduate assistant at West Liberty to serving as Director of Baseball Operations at Division I Gardner-Webb University, working with our good friend, Coach Jim Chester. His experience extends well beyond the college season, too. Parker has coached in the Beach Collegiate Baseball League, served as a task force scout for USA Baseball, and spent time in the New England Collegiate Baseball League as a hitting coach for the North Adams Steeplecats. In 2022, he took on his first managerial role with the Johnstown Mill Rats of the Prospect League. Parker's story is one of resilience and passion, from his playing days cut short by injury to building a career rooted in player development, preparation, and I love this, a love for the game. Coach Lynn is a guy who's seen the game from every seat in the dugout, and he's got some valuable lessons to share. Welcome to the show, Parker.
Jimmy, pleasure as always, man. Thanks for having me. Really fired up for this.
It's good to see you again. I mean, after take one, which was only a few weeks ago.
Hey, like I said, I guess that means the baseball gods brought us back together to talk some more. Never a bad thing.
Well, I just want to let everybody know out there that we recorded this the initial show maybe about 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks ago, and something went screwy with my system, and I just couldn't clean it up. So I put my tail between my legs, and I reached out to Parker and asked him, and he was gracious enough to come on again. So this is fantastic. So what's happening?
Nothing. We just wrapped up our fall season at Saint Vincent last week. We had guys go home for fall break for a couple days before they come back to ramp up for finals. Had our individual fall meetings last week as well. So we're good. We're wrapped up with the fall season. We're just focusing. Guys are focusing on academics, and we're hitting the weight room hard this time of year as well. So good time of year. Put the balls, bats away. Our guys have been basically full go since January. So it's time to get away from the balls and bats. Start to pick up the iron a little bit and focus on the academics. So it's a great time of year, especially in Western Pennsylvania. This time, the falls that we get, change of colors and seasons and everything like that. It's a beautiful time of year. So we're enjoying it.
Yeah. So now you're pretty much off until right after the convention, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we'll fire back up. We start the semester, I believe, the second or third week in January. And from then we'll be full go 6 days a week for our preseason, which is about 4.5 weeks before we head down to Florida for spring break and open up our season the first week of March. So yeah, like I said, we're off baseball wise until we get back in January. So
being in the Northeast like I am, so when you start in the beginning of March, got to be damn cold.
It is, yeah. We're inside in the gym. We're fortunate enough to actually have 2 indoor facilities that we utilize. We utilize our competition gym on campus when we can for our practice slots, but then we also have a local travel organization that has their facility about a half mile off our campus. They have 2 batting cages, 3 or 4 pitching mounds, a little turf area for some ground ball work. So we're fortunate enough for them to allow us to utilize that facility as well in the evenings in January and February. So a lot of times in the preseason, we're getting 2-a-days in. We're getting practice in during the day on campus, and then our guys are doing hitting and pitching groups off campus in the evenings at that facility that we're very fortunate to utilize.
That's great. Now, when you do start your season in March, do you start it in Pennsylvania? You play home games, or do you start elsewhere?
No, it's a good question. So we start elsewhere. So like I said, that first week of March, that last Friday in February, we'll head down to Florida. We go to Orlando, Florida, the Russ Matt Invitational in Orlando for 8 days. So we're down there for a week from Friday to Saturday. So we'll play over spring break. That's our first time, playing outside competition. Sometimes we're lucky enough, maybe we can get on our turf soccer field, a couple days in January or February if it's, warm enough and not snow covered. So we might get outside a handful of times. We might not. That might be our first time outside in Florida. So, like I said, we'll play about 6 to 8 games down there over spring break. And then we come back the following weekend. We take a weekend trip to Virginia. We play a 4-game series with a school down in Virginia. And then once we get back from that Virginia trip, we start our conference play about the 3rd week in March. So usually by that 3rd week in March, it's not too bad. You might have some mid-upper 40s, low 50s games, but as we know, spring in the Northeast, it's basically wet every day. So
yeah. Thinking about it, that's the one time with baseball that I can't stand. I cannot stand it in the spring because it's so darn cold. I mean, look, like you said, there are some days when we're out there and it's beautiful. It's like, oh, this is so nice. And then other days where it's just brutal.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's really a tease is when we go to Florida and we're in that 85, 90 degrees every day and we're playing and we're sweating and we're having a good time. And then we come back to Pennsylvania and we're inside for another week before we go back outside to the warmth. So usually our guys, they get pretty discouraged, but we basically tell them all fall and all preseason, it's a mental grind. And that's a huge part of the mental grind is not only being indoors for those 4 or 5 weeks for the preseason, because by that week 3, 4, guys are starting to get cabin fever. They're starting to go after each other. They're starting to get pissed at each other, which is good. You want to see that competition and that fieriness, but at the same time, sometimes, for the mental health of just being inside for 4 straight weeks, it's a grind. So we always, we challenge our guys and try and prepare them as best we can in the fall for that mental grind that's going to come in the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know what? Let's go back and, take us through your playing days. Take us through from high school, college. Take us through all of that.
Yeah, sure. So high school, I was kind of a jack of all trades type player. My dad growing up, he really harped on playing every position, which is my best advice to any young kid, is play every position. I mean, I was a catcher by trade, but I could also play middle infield and outfield as well. So high school, I kind of did it all. We had a really good high school team in my 4 years there. We were, district runner-ups, made the state playoffs a couple times. So we had a really good high school team. My senior year of the starting 9, I believe 7 went on to play college baseball.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Really good high school baseball experience. But because of that, I got to play multiple positions, like I said. And my junior year, I was playing second base, quote unquote day off from catching, was playing second base. And this is kind of when my career took a spin for, in my opinion, the best, but at the time was the worst. Was going back for an over-the-shoulder fly ball catch. Right fielder, wasn't really a right fielder. I really didn't play, second base all that much. We didn't communicate. Long story short, collision. Took an elbow straight to the face, did some facial damage, broke my nose, my orbital bone, my frontal plate. Ended up having a retinal hemorrhage, which is essentially the retina rupturing within itself in the eye. So had some really bad eye damage. Long story short, lost 70% of my vision and 100% of my depth perception in my left eye from that injury. Wasn't able to fully recover, but was able to recover enough to at least get by for my senior year of high school. And that's when I kind of made my commitment to go play at a Division II school, California University of Pennsylvania, which isn't too far from my hometown. Had a really good relationship with the head coach there at the time. And, he was gracious enough to honor that commitment even after the injury, which I will say you don't see happen a lot nowadays. No. So was very fortunate to have that happen. So went to Cal U as a freshman. I started in, I think, 11 games and played in 15 or 16 games, which the Division II level as a true freshman, I was thrilled with that. But the numbers weren't great. I could tell something was off. So I basically said, I'm going to go away and play summer ball my freshman year and see my freshman summer and see what happens and go from there. Went down and played in the Beach Collegiate League that I later coached in as a freshman and went 2 for 67 with 44 strikeouts, Jimmy. 2 for 67 with 44 strikeouts. Cried myself to sleep every night, called my parents every night and said, I hate baseball. This is miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. And, I always told myself whenever, the game's no longer a game and it's no longer a passion of yours as a player, it's time to hang it up. And, at 19 years old, I had to make that difficult decision to hang it up. And, I called my college coach and filled him in on everything. And I said, listen, I'm just going to go transfer to, a larger school, a Pitt or a Penn State, and be a student and just, get my degree and move on. And, he convinced me to come back that fall and help out as a student manager and at least give it a shot. And he said that, I have too much to offer to the game to just walk away from it this early. And, the rest was basically history. So, my sophomore fall, I went back as a student assistant, was doing laundry, organizing charts, all the stuff. Started at the bottom, essentially. Yeah. And then eventually my senior year worked my way up to having full autonomy to work with the catchers. I was assisting with hitters and coaching first base as a senior in college, which was, awesome experience to gain from that. And then, from there it took off. After I graduated, I got my degree in communication studies with a concentration in public speaking and a minor in sociology from Cal U, and then went on to be a grad assistant at West Liberty, which is another Division II school in West Virginia, not too far away. Was there for 1 season and then had the opportunity to make the jump to the Division I level with Coach Jim Chester at Gardner-Webb University. I know he's been on the podcast, a good friend of ours, and served as a director of baseball operations for him for 2 years down in Boiling Springs, North Carolina for the Running Bulldogs. And that was an awesome experience being at that level and, gaining a different perspective of the game because obviously director of operations, you're doing all the behind the scenes stuff. You're essentially, the assistant to the head coach. So, booking travel, hotels, meals, buses, making sure the umpires are good when they have the hotel when they get here, all that good stuff. Scheduling campus visits, fundraising, alumni events, the whole nine. So, getting those 2 years of experience of operations was awesome because I feel like that was the true experience of what a head coach actually does, which was great. And then after I finished my master's degree, graduated with my master's degree in education with a concentration in sport education from Gardner-Webb, moved back home to Western Pennsylvania, got married, settled down, was a volunteer at nearby Seton Hill University, which is a powerhouse Division II program, not too far from Saint Vincent. was a volunteer for one fall there, and then got the full-time job at Saint Vincent. Like you said earlier, assistant baseball coach and manager of athletic facilities at Saint Vincent. And rest was history. Here we are, going on year 4, season 5 coming up at Saint Vincent. So it's flying by, but it's a good time.
That's some journey.
Yeah. And then, like you said, had some summer ball sprinkled in there in between too, which is always a great experience to go experience summer ball and, make some connections with some different schools and kids all over the country. That was always a good time too.
So tell me what, or who I should say, who were influences on you, for your coaching?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I said earlier, my dad, he was always just like every, young kid that, has a dad that plays sports. He coached me in football. He coached me in baseball. He coached me in wrestling. He coached me in hockey. Everything growing up, he coached me in. So definitely, being able to be around every game you love and spend time with him, it kind of brings a perspective to you, especially now being a young dad, that there's more than just a game.
Yeah.
It's who you spend it with, and it's who, really motivates you to be around that game for the right reasons. And, first and foremost, obviously, him, my dad, just giving me those opportunities and always making me better and pushing me was really nice to be able to see it from a different perspective. But then, like I said, my coach at Cal U, Coach Mike Conti, he actually just retired this past year after 29 seasons as a head coach at the Division II level at the same institution, which is really impressive to do. Yeah. If it wasn't for him, taking that leap of faith, saying, come back, help me out and get into it that way. If it wasn't for that phone conversation, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at. But every step of the way, you always have good people that help you out. And that's my case as well. Every step of the way, I've had a coach that impacted me in one way or the other. And, you can always take things from coaches that you're with. Like I said, my time at Gardner Webb with Coach Chester for those 2 years was unbelievable. I'm extremely thankful for him and everything, all the experience he gave me. But, like I said, I could go on and on. Every step along the way that I've taken, there's been someone there to really guide me and kind of bring me back down to earth as to why we do this as coaches. It's not for the wins and losses, but it's for the relationships.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. How was your dad as a coach? How would you describe him as a coach?
You know what, man? It's so funny. It's like he's so I hate using the term because it is what it is, but just old school, hard nosed, blue collar. How it still should be, in my opinion. And it's funny, now being a coach and, like I said, being a young dad, I'll call him like twice a week, like, man, you were right about this. You were right about that. You were right about this. And he loves it. I swear he picks up that phone before it even rings because he knows I'm going to give him some credit. But yeah, no, like I said, he was a great coach, even better dad. And he was really good at relating life and baseball and sports and everything, to the best of his ability, which it's so true. You don't get your experiences from sports in a textbook or sitting in a lecture. You get it from, going through it, which is something that I always tell our guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that because my son, who just started playing again, not this past summer, the summer before, in like a men's baseball league. And, he's struggling a bit. And, he came to me and said, what am I doing, this and that? And helped him out as much as I could. And then one day he came over to me. He said, something, Dad, what I just realized? He said, I wish I had understood when I was younger what you were trying to teach me. He said, I understand it now.
Yep. Exactly. I could not agree more with that. And it's amazing it takes us. I'm 29. It's amazing it takes you 15 plus years to make that realization.
Yeah. In his case, he's 25. So, very similar age. But yeah. And again, it's, what's the old saying, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And that's what it is.
Yep.
So, okay. So, tell everybody what it's like at Saint Vincent Baseball. What type of program do you have there?
Yeah, it's a brotherhood. That's what we really, refer to it as. It's a brotherhood. It's a family. And it's that simple. We have really good leadership from within. My head coach and I, we really don't have to address, issues is always the wrong word, but it's the word that's used. We don't have to address any issues or adversities or anything like that within our team because our leadership committee that we have does such a good job. It's comprised of 6 guys. We have 4 juniors and 2 seniors, 3 pitchers, 3 position players. So we make sure we have, equal representation from both sides because, as you know, sometimes when things aren't going well, you'll have those pitchers and the position players and hitters start going at each other. So we make sure we have equal representation of that. But like I said, I mean, this is the time of year where Division III coaches, and a lot of guys listening will probably understand what I'm saying, that since they coach at the Division III level, we hate this time of year because we're not with our guys consistently like other levels are. This is the time of the year where you got to make sure you recruit the right kid that's going to be responsible and get their work in that they're supposed to without being watched. But that's something that we don't struggle with because, like I said, our senior leadership does a really good job of making sure they're holding guys accountable. Guys are still getting long toss in. They're working on any deficiencies within their swing in the cage, machine work, stuff like that. So makes our job easy as coaches that we don't have to worry about them because they do such a good job. But then as well off the field, like I said, we had our individual meetings last week to wrap up the fall. And we have a lot of upperclassmen that are 3.8, 3.9, 4.0 students that are, teaching assistants in the biology department. And, so-and-so will come in and say, well, I might be struggling in my bio class, but so-and-so is, a teaching assistant in the bio department. And he's giving me tutoring every Tuesday night at 9:00. And it's like, wow, hearing that, we have upperclassmen that are taking underclassmen under their wing to help tutor and help with classes. Like I said, it goes so much farther beyond the field. To hear stuff like that as coaches really makes you appreciate and proud of your guys for what they do from within for your program. So, the leadership's definitely there on the field, but those are just the examples of off the field of what our leadership, our brotherhood, and our culture is like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it all the time, right? It's all about the relationships. So, you and, the coaching staff there create the relationship between you and the players, and then the players have to have a respectable relationship amongst themselves. And if all of that is in the right place, then, man, you're going to do well.
Exactly. It's been really cool to see, for sure, especially too in the weight room. We have an awesome dynamic at Saint Vincent. So we have a full-time head strength and conditioning coach, which is awesome. Not a lot of schools are fortunate enough to have that. Coach Omar Ward is our head strength conditioning coach. He's the best. He played 5 years of college baseball, so he's a baseball guy. He gets it. But then also myself, I'm certified in strength and conditioning through USA Weightlifting as well. So I'm actually able to be with our guys in the weight room. So I'm essentially with our guys, this time of year, but our head coach isn't, which, let's be honest, and he would laugh if I said this, most guys don't want to be with their head coach year round, right? They're bad cop and an assistant coach is good cop. So, but it allows me to check on these guys even further than the weight room. Hey, have you talked to mom and dad? I know you're six hours away from home. How's everything going at home? How are classes? How's your mental health? It allows me to check on these kids even further than on the field. So like you said, those relationships are only going to continue to be built.
Yeah. I mean, my assistant coach is 22 years old, young kid, wants to be a baseball coach. And, I love the relationship that he has with the boys. I just love it. It's more of a big brother relationship. Whereas, me, it's more of a grandpa.
Exactly. You need that dynamic, in my opinion. You need a good balance between both to be a successful coaching staff, in my opinion. It's like I said, it's a mix of old school, new school, and still in school. It's a good mix of all three.
Yeah. And I love that, they'll confide in him. If something's not going right, they'll go to him and, he's their first line of defense, which is great. And then, he'll be honest with them and he'll say, look, guys, this is a little bit above my pay grade. Let's talk to coach about that,
Yep. Well, you got yourself a good assistant then.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's really funny about it is when he was brought to me, he had no experience, other than being a high school baseball player, young kid. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, what am I going to do with him? He doesn't know anything. And I said, you know what? Let me bring him on. Let's see what happens. He's unbelievable. I mean, I'll give him our catch play routine. I said to him, okay, listen, you're going to be in charge of our catch play routine. I'm going to be there with you. So, I'll get through it, but I want you to learn it. Here it is, and learn it. And Parker, I got to tell you, I mean, it's almost as if I feel as if I was doing it.
Right.
He's that dedicated, he's that committed. And, like you said, that's really important.
Yeah, it is. And for him to be able to get comfortable continuing to do that, he's only going to get better, and he's only going to be able to teach more stuff, more in-depth stuff, more complicated stuff. So, I mean, I always say it's about the small victories. Keep stacking small victories. That's awesome. That's good.
It's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching philosophy. Okay. So how would you describe your style as a coach?
Yeah, I'm a very hands-off coach, in my opinion. I'm more of a cerebral coach. I like to make kids think. So, I really won't go to a kid, I'll kind of make him come to me. I think that's the best way to do it, because if you tend to overload these kids, think too much, and then it's counterproductive in my opinion. So, sometimes if I want to get a kid's gear turning a little bit about something I potentially see, I'll ask him a question and put it into his court. So, you're taking around a BP, you come out of the turtle, hey, Jimmy, what'd you feel there? And then now you start to see the brain, the light go off, everything starts to go off a little bit. And he's like, you know what, maybe I felt this or that. Then we can have a conversation about it. But I'm not going to be the type of coach where it's like, you're doing this and you need to do this. I think that's where issues arise, and that's where trust isn't built. But if you put it back in their court, make them think about it and have an intellectual conversation over it, then I feel like a little bit more trust is built. But then two, they can make the correctives themselves, right? We want these kids to be able to realize their mistakes and make adjustments. That's what we communicate to our guys. Is baseball is a game where an adjustment needs to be made every single pitch, whether you're on the mound, in the field, at the plate. An adjustment needs to be made every single pitch. So that's kind of my coaching philosophy is, if an adjustment needs to be made, number one, you need to be able to realize that said adjustment needs to be made, and you need to be able to correct the movements to make that overall adjustment. So I kind of like to put it back in the kids' court, make them think a little bit. But we've had some kids this fall that, they didn't come to me for anything for, 6 or 7 practices. And then, finally by maybe that 10th practice, they're like, you haven't come up to me and said anything. Is everything all right? I'd be like, I don't know. You tell me. What are you feeling? Is everything all right? Are you good? Well, yeah, I'm barreling balls. Okay. Well, then we don't need to have a conversation. We're good. Yeah. Or, you haven't said anything to me. Is everything all right? I don't know. You tell me. Well, yeah, maybe I'm feeling this. Okay. Well, now you're mature enough to realize that there's potentially something wrong. Now we can have a conversation about it. So, maybe we do some video analysis. Maybe we do some different types of different field drills. But yeah, I like to make kids think and come to me before I go to them and start word vomiting cues that they don't even know what I'm talking about.
I love it. I'm working with this fall. I was working with a developmental team, 7th and 8th graders, and we were doing, kids had a tendency when they were hitting to rotate, So we were doing a drill that I used just to get their hands to move instead of, rotating. And I explained to them beforehand. I said, guys, listen, I'm going to give you the information, but you guys are going to be your own best coach. Okay. Yes. Just remember what I say and, tell you how to do the drill, right, and let's see what happens. And I got to tell you something, Parker. I was so impressed at these young kids, 13 years old. They would catch themselves rotating and then they would stop. And then they'd get back, and then you would see their hands would, move. Yep. And it was fantastic.
Yep. And there's nothing better than that when, as a coach, you see that light bulb go off in their mind. You see their eyes get real big, and you're like, yes, they got it. They got it. There's no better feeling than that.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't only one of them. It was several of them.
Right.
Obviously, right, as well as I do. You're not going to get to all of them at the same time.
Right.
But, enough that I was like, wow, this is great. They're getting it.
Right. And then it's like a domino effect from that point. All it takes is one, then two, and then they start talking and they start helping each other. And before you know it, 10 kids already have it figured out, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're developing players, okay, what part of the team do you work with?
So I was a catcher by trade. So right now I work with our pitchers and catchers. So I work with our battery mainly is who I work with.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So when you get, and I think I asked you the same question the last time on take one, but when freshmen come into your program, what's the first thing you work on them?
Yeah. When freshmen come in, we essentially give them, maybe a 3 or 4 day practice grace period on, we'll just do, if we're doing IO or if we're doing BP with mass fungos, we'll just let them be athletic and move about however they want to, however they're used to. And we'll just kind of sit back and evaluate them. Even in gameplay, we might have 1 or 2 inter squads before, we really start to work with kids. So even in gameplay, we'll just say, hey, go play your game, do what got you here, and we'll kind of sit back and evaluate them from that standpoint. So we get to see them in practice, and then we get to see them at game speed. And then usually, by that second week, we'll start to kind of individualize each player. Maybe you need to get your hands out in front more on ground balls. You need to keep your feet moving through ground balls. Outfielders, you got to use your lower half, whatever it may be. We'll kind of start to individualize what we see, what we need to work on with each kid. And we'll incorporate that then within our individual work. So again, I like to kind of sit back and take a 30,000 foot view of everything. And then as the fall goes on, be able to, diagnose, for a lack of a better term, what each kid maybe needs to work on or what their weaknesses are. Because as well as I do, with these younger kids, they tend to just focus on their strengths and neglect their weaknesses. So we'll kind of do the flip side of it. Okay, you're good at this, but this really needs work to catch up with it. So let's focus on this. And then, in the weight room, it kind of just, stacks on top of it. If a kid, if a lefty first baseman, can't do his pickoff move to first base because his hips are a little too tight, then we're able to work on hip mobility in the weight room. So it just kind of stacks basically every aspect of the game, from strength and conditioning to being able to move on the field. Like I said, we'll kind of hone in on those deficiencies and be able to work through them all fall. Even at our end of the year fall meetings we just had, we'll be able to, tell a kid, this is what we want you to do to create this deficiency that you're having within your game. And then, like I said, the scary part is right now, the ball's in his court, so he can come back and be ready to go, or he could be come back and not do a thing we told him to. Yeah. But that's kind of how we handle the development, as we sit back, take a 30,000-foot view, give it some time to diagnose the deficiencies, and then kind of take those deficiencies and work on them throughout the fall.
So you touched on something a little bit with the freshmen, with the weight room and stuff, and doing the work in the weight room. Mm-hmm. Do you expect your recruits to come in like already conditioned, or do you realize that maybe some freshmen, didn't put in the work when they were in high school and they need to be conditioned, once they get to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, first and foremost, I think, from a high school perspective, probably strength and conditioning is one of the most neglected aspects of the game of baseball. We just think we need to throw as hard as we can and hit the ball as far as we can. But in reality, you can't do that unless you're strong, right? So, strength and conditioning is a huge piece to the college game. Like I said, this fall, we're probably going to devote more time to strength and conditioning than we did baseball practice, if you think about it in the long run. So, our freshmen, once a kid commits to Saint Vincent, he does all the paperwork and he's good to go. We do have a summer weight training program that we'll send to them for their freshman summer to come in. And we're not expecting our freshmen to come in 15 pounds more from when they came on their visit. That would be nice if they did. What we're expecting our freshmen when they come in from a strength and conditioning perspective is to just have a baseline of all of the basic strength movements and trainings that we're going to do, so that whenever we get there and it's time to go, we're not waiting for anyone. We all have to be on the same level in terms of, our technique. Obviously, the strengths are going to be different. That's fine. But everyone's got to be up to par, up to speed with the techniques of the lifting that we're going to do. And that's essentially what that summer program is for, is to make sure that, hey, yeah, you know what, Jimmy, if you could put on 10, 15 pounds, that'd be great. But your goal is to come in this fall, technique needs to be near perfect so that we can hit the ground running and we don't have to waste weeks teaching technique.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So while we're on this subject, let's stay with this. So who does the recruiting? Do you do the recruiting?
Yeah, so I'm our recruiting coordinator. So our coaching staff is my head coach, Coach Sinosco. He's going on year 29 as head coach at St. Vincent, which is awesome. Yeah, 29 years as head coach. He's kind of taken a backseat to the recruiting. Obviously, he's earned his stripes. He's done it long enough. So I am our only other full-time assistant coach. So I handle all of our recruiting. And then we're fortunate enough to have 4 volunteers who were actually former players that came through the program that will help us out on weekends in the fall and the winter time and in the spring as well. So we're fortunate enough to have those guys come around, and, as volunteer basis, to be able to devote the time they do is a huge help. But in terms of being on the road, it's me. I'm the guy.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And how far do you travel? Just the Northeast?
No. Oh my gosh, Jimmy. No, man. I try and go out I try and get St. Vincent on the map essentially as nationwide as I can. I'll go down to Florida 4 or 5 times a year. I'm actually heading down there this weekend for my 3rd time this year, and I'll be going down 2 more before the end of the summer. I got down to Texas, really the Southeast, New York, New Jersey, and then I'll stretch out to Ohio, Indiana, down to West Virginia, the DMV area, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. I went out to California a couple times last year. It's tough to get a kid from out there, but, really say on the, east of the Mississippi, but basically all up and down the East Coast. Yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty big area. I mean, is that typical? I mean, most colleges in the Northeast kind of stay in the Northeast. Is that true, or is that changing?
I think it's changing. I mean, there's so much good talent everywhere. I mean, I think it's changing. You see a lot of guys kind of, it's funny, schools, and this is kind of where I got my philosophy, is I try and create pockets where we know we're going to get kids from. So like right now, Florida is a good pocket for us. We currently have 6 kids on our roster from Florida.
Oh, wow.
So I know I can go to Florida 3 or 4 times and at least maybe get 2 or 3 kids, in that time that I go. We do really well in the DMV, so Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. We're a Catholic institution. There's an entire Catholic high school essentially conference in the Maryland, Virginia area. There's like 50 Catholic high schools, so we'll pull a lot of those kids. And then, like I said, we have some Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois kids as well. So, in my opinion, if you want to be a good recruiter, you got to have your connections, right? Like, I don't go to any events or showcases and just show up and hope to find players. I'm going to go where I know there are good teams, there are good travel organizations that do it the right way, that train the right kids. Or same thing with showcase organizations. If I have a good relationship where I know they're going to have good kids show up, then I'm going to go and flock to those events. And I think, that's the biggest thing to being a good recruiter is don't just go to some random field in the middle of, BFE and hope you're going to find a kid, because it's probably not going to work. You got to have connections to these kids, just like these kids build relationships with guys like yourself, and you build relationships with guys like me. There's got to be a common ground to be able to find the right kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever look at the Catholic High School Athletic Association in New York?
I have not. See, that's why we're on this call.
Yeah, you have to, because again, it's a very, very competitive baseball league, and that's Stepanek. That's Stepanek is in that.
Write that down. See, I learned something tonight. There we go.
Yeah, it's a couple of teams in Westchester.
Okay,
but then it's mostly New York City, other than Queens. Was Queen? No,
You know what? We do have a kid from Monsignor McClancy in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they in that league, I assume, then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have a left-handed pitcher from Monsignor McClancy. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, that's a good league that you should probably look into. A lot of players.
Yeah, consider it done.
And the one thing before it escapes my mind, you had mentioned about kids from Florida that complain about coming up in the cold.
No, it's crazy. They love it because they've never seen snow before. Like it's either you have kids that have never seen snow before and they love the change of the seasons. They've never seen different color leaves and they're just mesmerized by it, which is great. But this from living in the Northeast. A lot of kids that we actually do have on our roster now are Northeast transplants, where their parents moved to Florida. They're originally from Ohio or Pennsylvania or New York, and they still have family up here. So I don't want to say it's an easy sell, but it's a realistic sell for them to, get the best of both worlds and still get a good education and play baseball.
So, and I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. How important are the intangibles when you're looking at a player?
Oh my gosh, they're huge. You can't teach them. They're huge. I mean, you either have it or you don't. It's like baseball IQ. You have it or you don't, unfortunately, in my opinion. But at the same time, if a kid works hard, he's a good student, he's a good teammate, he's not going to cause you any trouble. I mean, those are also intangibles too. I mean, you have kids that, that don't believe that that's the case. Sometimes they're just here to play baseball and they cause trouble. They don't go to class. They're a cancer to the team. Then, that's an issue. And we don't want kids like that. So, you got to do, I hate using the term the little things, but you got to do the little things the right way to reap the big benefits. And that's stuff that we look for is kids that can do the little things, the important things the right way.
Now, you're kind of young yourself, so this may be like a tough question for you, but do you see like the intangibles are less and less noticeable or less and less prevalent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are seeing that.
Yeah, I definitely am seeing that. I think the baseball player that, even athlete in general that is kind of coming up through today's society, I mean, let's be real. They're a sports center generation, right? They see the highlights, they see the home runs, the walk-offs, the cool plays, the sexy plays. They see that stuff and they think that's all that they need to do. But they don't see the hours of cage work, the hours of strength and conditioning. They don't see, like I said, the little things, the important details that go behind it to reap those big benefits. So, I mean, I think it's just unfortunately, the way society is, like I said, it's an ESPN society. It's a microwave society. Everyone wants it now. Everyone wants to reap the benefits now, but they don't want to put the work in and use those intangible skills.
Yeah. You know what I'm seeing, which is interesting with my development program now, and I haven't coached 13U baseball in, I don't even know, probably 15 years maybe. And it's different. It's different now. And what I'm starting to see is that a lot of these intangibles that are missing are because these kids have been beaten up by their travel ball coaches. I mean,
yes.
Beaten up.
Yes.
And I mean, it's terrible to see these kids, no self-esteem, no confidence, just crazy. So, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is I can see that that's going to get worse and worse for you guys.
Yes, correct. And like you said too, it's getting more difficult to identify who has the intangibles and who can portray the intangibles and what we're looking for, because you hear it all the time. When college coaches, when we go out and watch kids, we want to see them fail.
Yes.
And every single kid doesn't want to fail. It's the end of the world when they fail. But we can't teach that. We have to see you deal with failure. You're going to fail. It's part of the game. And if we can't see you fail in an acceptable and professional manner and learn from it, I mean, that's what I always tell my guys is you don't fail, you learn and grow. I mean, you have to swing it that way. Like you're saying, you have to swing it that way. Failure is a negative thing. When kids hear that F word, the shoulders start to shrug, the head goes down. It's almost like I said, you got to spin it to where, okay, guys, we're not failing, we're learning, because that's a more positive way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because, kid boots a ball or strikes out or, like you said, the shoulders go down, the head goes down. And, I'll call him over and I'll say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, well, coach, this and that. I said, look at my face. Do I look like I care?
Right. Right.
I'm not mad at you.
I'd much rather see a kid boot a ball in the infield, pat his glove, say, "Come on, Jimmy, roll another ground ball. Give me another one." That's what I want to see.
Exactly.
That's what I want to see. All right, this kid messed up. He knows it. He wants another one. He wants to correct it. Let's go. Good.
Yeah.
Give me that kid 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I'll make a little joke out of it, and get him and say, "Get back out there." I said, I don't care. Let's just work hard. Make sure you give me 100%. Make sure you stay focused and all of that stuff, and then we're good.
Right.
But it's a shame because, like I said, I hear stories now. Again, the parents are telling me stories, about like coaches, like if they at 10 years old, kid strikes out, and the coach is at third base, just going like, his hands go up in the air. He's 10.
Right.
And they don't realize the effect that's having on the kid that is going to be year after year after year because you're making it really, really obvious that you don't like it when he strikes out. And so they feel like they can't strike out. I mean, it's stupid.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I can go on about that forever. So let's not dwell on it. But anyway, so, all right. So the college landscape, right? The college landscape now has changed in the last, 3, 4, 5 years?
Probably since COVID.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, dramatically. Okay.
Right.
So what kind of challenges does that give you? Oh, well, wait a second. What kind of challenges and also what kind of opportunities?
Yeah. It's the college baseball landscape. I never thought it would trickle down to the Division III level, but it has, just in terms of how crazy it is. Now, obviously, we're not dealing with NIL. We're not dealing with any of that crazy stuff yet.
Right.
I think that's coming, and that's a whole another area of territory that I'm terrified to have to deal with at our level.
Yeah.
But I think at our level, the value of an education obviously is the first and foremost decision these kids are going to make. So at the forefront of their decision, they know they're going to come to Saint Vincent and they're going to get a great education. So I think first and foremost, that's probably the best opportunity that we have kids realize that, you're going to play college baseball, you're going to get a great education. But then we also, you have some kids that they bat their eyes at the Division III level. I don't want to go to Division III. It's not good baseball. I want to go D2. I want to go D1. Well, guess what? We all want to get drafted and play professional baseball, right? And that's still a challenge is that, I'll reach out to some kids or I'll go see a kid and it's like, hey man, like you could come in and help us. You're really good. No, I'm going to wait for, Division II, Division I offers. Okay. And then wouldn't you know it, 2-3 months later, hey coach, is that, is the interest still there? I called it. It's like, you're just, it's just a frustrating thing that, coaches at our level and every level we're going through it. I mean, obviously the Division II guys from the Division I, it all trickles down. It's a trickle down effect. But, we just try and, like I said, we want to find kids that, realize that they're there to get an education. They're there to play very competitive college baseball. And for us, it's a 40-year plan. It's not a 4-year plan.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny about that, what you just said is that, some of the kids will actually get mad at you or at me as a high school coach. Okay. So one player came to me and this was last winter and he said something about getting recruited by D1, D1 school. So I said, sit down. I said, listen, I said, I love you to death. I'll do anything for you. I said, but look, let's not get ourselves nuts here. Okay.
Right.
You are not going to play Division I baseball. And I said, and here's why. Your fastball is 76 miles an hour. I said, they're not even going to look at you. I said, so
Yes.
look, let's clean things up. Let's see if we can get that to 80 and, maybe a little bit, a couple ticks above 80. Let's work on your change up, right? Let's
Right.
work on your two seam, and then let's see what happens. I said, but listen, right now, let's set our sights on a D3 school. Well,
Right.
just a couple of weeks ago, he committed to a D3 school.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's about being real. It's about looking yourself in the mirror and being realistic. And let's be realistic with it. I mean, for 16 to 18-year-old kids to do that is extremely difficult. It's difficult for me to do that sometimes at 29, to look in the mirror and be realistic, So got to realize your audience too at some point, I think, as well,
Yeah. Yeah, but to be honest with you, he actually got mad at me. He was mad at me when I told him that. And then, after a while, he realized because, during the season, he started to realize that this is the high school level and he struggled this year. And I would never, obviously as a coach, I would never throw that in his face. I wouldn't say, yeah, you see, I told you. I would never do that.
Right.
But I'm sure that he saw it and he probably said, geez, you know what? I was mad at Coach, but he was right. So,
Yep.
So anyway, now here's the other thing too that I want to get into. So we all talk about it all the time that we're coaching the person, we're not coaching the player. Okay, so we're preparing. You just mentioned it about getting a good education, and we prepare them to be good husbands, fathers, business people, community people. How do you prepare them for that type of success? After baseball.
Yeah, it all goes with the time management and juggling being a student athlete and extracurricular activities. We tell all our guys to get involved as many extracurriculars as you can, get different perspectives on life, have a job on campus, which a lot of our kids do have jobs on campus. It teaches them, show up, be on time, be a good worker, be diligent, stay off your phone, all that good stuff. So, our institution does a really good job of encapsulating all of those things, like you said, what it takes to achieve those goals of being, a good worker, husband, father, everything like that. So, but the biggest thing too is, like I said, we as a coaching staff and our leadership, we hold our kids accountable for every little thing. We do academic meetings with our guys probably twice a month. And if they're not honest with us, or if they're struggling in a class and they didn't go get a tutor, we're going to have to, essentially address that with them. Why didn't you go get a tutor? Why are we waiting until now at midterms and we have a D whenever we could have gotten a tutor and we could be sitting at a C or a B? So we have to realize, again, they're young adults. They're going to make mistakes just like you and I. We're going to make mistakes, but we have to hold them accountable and we have to allow them to learn from those mistakes that they do make and relate them to life. That, hey, you might show up one day to work and your boss gives you an assignment and you don't do it well enough. Well, guess what? You're going to hear about it, or you're not going to have a job. One of the two.
Yeah.
So we always try and teach our guys that, this is the best 4 years of their life, but there's a plan and there's a reason behind it. And sometimes these 4 years are going to magnify what's to come down the road, and essentially just preparing them as best we can, in these experiences they're going to have in these 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you just said, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I've been in my business for 45 years and I'm still making mistakes, it's just, we will always make mistakes, but if we learn how to deal with it and we realize that, okay, I made a mistake, how am I going to fix it?
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is being vulnerable in front of your guys. Sure. If you can tell them, hey, Jimmy, you know what? I own up to it. I made a mistake. Here's what I should have done. This is how I'm going to fix it. That's on me. You tell them that in practice with a practice plan or a drill or something you're doing, and their jaw hits the ground like, holy crap, coach just admitted he was wrong. They're going to be more vulnerable to open up to you in that situation.
Sure. Where I like to use that a lot is, the post-game talk that I have with the kids, especially the younger kids. And, whatever, something didn't go right. Well, we didn't do a rundown right, let's say. And I'll say to them, hey, guys, you remember back in the fourth inning, that rundown? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, coach, we screwed up. And I'll be like, no, you guys did not screw up. I did. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean? And I'm like, we didn't work hard enough on it because that shouldn't happen. If it happens, that means I didn't do my job. Right. It's on me, guys. I said, we'll fix that at practice. Right. I love doing that because, like you said, I like to show them that, we're vulnerable too. We make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And you build that trust and you build that relationship that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. So let's see. Looking back on your career, your coaching career, to this point, what has been the most rewarding thing for you?
It's a good question. Man, wow. I mean, I think the most rewarding thing for me within my coaching career has every stop along the way. It's been someone that's important to me and that's had an impact in my career. So like my coach at Cal U, he obviously, recruited me. We had a really good relationship through the recruiting process. Coach Chester, he recruited me out of high school whenever he was a coach of a Division III school up here in Pennsylvania. And we were honestly friends, before I even went to Gardner-Webb as a coach. He gave me a call when he got the job and said, "Hey, you're coming with me if you want it." I said, "Yeah, let's go," because we had that pre-existing relationship. When I was a volunteer at Seton Hill, I had a really good relationship with their head coach just from coaching against him at Cal and seeing him on the road. And then my coach at Saint Vincent, we were family friends before I even got this job. Our families were friends for the longest time, played travel ball with his kids growing up. And, so we had a pre-existing relationship there. So I think it's just the relationships that I've developed in this game with the kids, the coaches. It's crazy. I got invited to my first wedding of a former player of mine this upcoming summer. So that's when you've been doing it. I guess I say a long time, but you've been doing it long enough to get a wedding invite from a former player. And just to get that in the mail, and it's like, wow, I never thought I would have gotten that from him, but you never know what kind of relationship and lives, you impact with these kids. And, to sit back and, sometimes I'll get a random text from a former player, how's everything going? It's so cliche, but it's all about the relationships for me. The wins and losses are cool, but to get, text messages from former players and, see coaches on the road or at the convention I haven't seen for years. And it's like we pick up right where we left off, like we've been best friends for years. I think that's the most rewarding thing in my coaching journey.
See, what I love about what you just said is that you didn't mention anything about baseball. You didn't say, well, the most rewarding thing was when, we went to the championship and we did this and we did that. And, when I was playing, and it was all about the relationships. And that's so important for, younger coaches and youth coaches to understand that, yeah, man, it's not about wins and losses. It never is.
Right.
And I believe that if you, build those relationships and you treat everybody fair and obviously you have to teach them the game the right way and you do all of that, then the winning kind of takes care of itself. You don't even have to worry about it.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. So let's say you become the head coach of Saint Vincent. I don't want to cut the head coach short, but let's say, 5 years from now, you become the head coach. What would your program look like? Would it look the same? Would it be different?
Yeah, I think it would be, yes, to answer your question. I think it would be the same, but it would be different. Like I said, all the stops I had along the way, just like, you have some good, you have some bad, you have some ugly. You take some stuff that you're going to do, you have some stuff that you're never going to do again. And, I think that's the same way with our program, is that we have some stuff that I think has been a really good foundation for, like I said, 29 years from our head coach in terms of the culture, the leadership from within, everything like that. But then, I think as a head coach, if you don't put your own little twist into a program, what good are you doing for that program, right? It's like they always say in Moneyball, adapt or die. You got to move with the times of the game. You have to stay up to speed. You got to keep up with the Joneses, to use the term that, everyone knows. And, if a program down the road's doing something and, you feel like you have to make some changes or adjustment to keep up or pass them up, then you got to do it. So, it's funny. I always, obviously an aspiration of mine is to be the head coach at Saint Vincent and take over. And people always ask me this question, and I always fumble around my words like I am now, because I feel like you never really know until you sit in that chair what you want to do, because it's all talk, right? It's all talk until it comes time to actually do it. Yeah. So I can sit here and try and fumble and say, I want to do this, that, and this, but until I sit in that chair and get that first day on the job, I don't know what it's going to look like. And I think that's the best part about it.
Well, I always feel that in that aspect, the old saying, be where your feet are, and the rest will kind of take care of itself. And what I mean by that is, you take somebody like me, right? So, I didn't play much baseball when I was young, but I still had a love for the game. I started coaching at an early age. It was a mess, okay? And then I started coaching when my son started playing. And I, and everybody on the show has heard me talk about this before, but I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Okay. So at every level that I coached at, I just wanted to be the best at what I was doing.
Yep.
By doing that, that made the next level that much easier.
Right.
and so on all the way up to, a varsity high school coach. So again, just to your point, yeah, I mean, you're doing a great job as an assistant, and that's all you need to do. That's preparing you for that head coach job.
Exactly. I thank you for that, because you just put my jumbled thoughts into words that I couldn't do.
Oh God, yeah, that's the old man in me.
That's the wise man in you. Years of experience right there, Jimmy.
Oh, that's funny. So let's kind of stay on that line about being where your feet are, okay? Because again, it's something that I like to talk about. You got youth and high school coaches. They're trying to get players. You hear them all the time. We get guys recruited. Come here. We're going to get. Well, what advice would you give them to actually get those kids recruited?
Put them in a successful and positive environment to be recruited. Too many times, you hear these local organizations, travel teams that are going to Georgia and Florida and all these crazy locations and spending all these thousands of dollars for, let's be honest, kids that realistically can't play at the schools that are going to be at those events. And that's the frustrating thing, is I see these local teams doing stuff like that. And I'm like, how about let's go to the local Division II school and compete in a team camp and play another travel organization in front of 15 college coaches from Western Pennsylvania, where probably the majority of your kids are going to end up going anyway, instead of wasting these thousands of dollars and making parents take off work and take out a mortgage to have flights to go to Georgia, whatever it may be. Put your kids in a successful situation to be recruited, like we said earlier, to the realistic level in which you see them being at. That's my biggest advice. If you have a team that's going to be full of Division II and Division III studs, awesome. Put them in a position to where they're going to be playing 4 of their 6 tournaments in front of Division II and Division III coaches. Don't send them to Georgia 3 times in the year for them to be playing in front of Tony Vitello at Tennessee whenever, he's probably not going to recruit them.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it goes down to, evaluating talent. So if you're a youth coach or a high school coach, you have to learn how to evaluate talent so that what level they could play at.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
It's something that they need to know, because again, I've had, so many people come up to me and say, oh, so-and-so is this or is that. And I'm looking and I'm like, no, he's not.
Yep. And what the best way, in my opinion, to do that is take those kids to a whatever level you think they're going to be best fitting in game. Go take them to a Division II game. Go take them to a JUCO game, a Division III game. Hell, go take them to a Division I game and prove a point.
Yes. Yes.
Your 76-mile-an-hour fastball isn't going to compete against this guy throwing 92 to 95, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to prove a point.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, what you mentioned about JUCO, people don't, they think, I've even heard people say that JUCO is just an extension of high school baseball. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Have you ever watched a JUCO game?
Yeah. Yeah. There are some JUCOs out there that can beat some Division I's, Division II's, every level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, go out there. And like you said, I love that advice. Go out there, watch a practice or watch a game, and see what, bring your team. Everybody sit there and watch them.
And here's the thing. If we get a travel coach or, a local youth coach that emails us and says, hey, coach, can we come out and bring, 10 guys to your practice? Heck yeah, come on out. Coach, we'd be more than happy to have you guys come out and watch a practice, learn, see what we do. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even from a coach's standpoint. So not only are your players going to see, what that talent level is like, but also as a coach, you can see how to run a practice the right way.
Exactly. I'm very good friends with the University of Pittsburgh staff. Obviously, we're, 45 minutes outside the city of Pittsburgh. And, I communicate with those guys pretty regularly. And I asked one of their assistants the other day, I said, hey, can I come down to a practice, just sit in the stands, take some notes, watch? Yeah, sure. Come on down. We'd love to have you. I mean, that's what it's all about. Schools are more than willing to do that if you just ask.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I started this developmental program, it's funny because, again, this is kind of self-serving what I'm going to say, but I'm sorry, it's the truth. We took the boys, very first practice, put them on the field. We ran through pretty much the same thing I do with my high school boys. Okay, We went through our catch play, we went through our meditation. First, we did our meditation, then we did our dynamic and and our catch play. Then we broke up into groups and we're rotating through. And after the practice, now remember, it's their first practice. These people don't know me from a hole in the wall.
Right.
And, I was walking by and they were all taking their kids and they're sitting in the bleachers and they looked at me and they said, hey, coach, you got a minute? So I said, yeah, what's up? They said, what the hell was that? And I was like, that's a baseball practice. They said, yeah. They said, we've never seen anything like that before. Like
There
that.
you go.
And, again, there's a way to run a practice. And,
Right.
I talked to them a little bit and I said, well, where they played before, what were they doing? What did their practice look like? Well, they'd put them on the field, they'd hit them some balls, then they would have them come and they would do on-field batting practice. Everybody was picking daisies, and then they'd go home. I'm like, well, that's not practice.
Sounds like glorified daycare to me.
Yeah, that's not practice.
Right, yeah.
So, all righty. So, one last question for you. If you could leave one lasting message with every player, what would it be?
Enjoy the game. Enjoy the process. The game of baseball, it's a game. It's, it's not work baseball. It's play baseball. It's a game. Enjoy it. Understand the roots as to why you started to play the game. Obviously, there's a passion behind it. There's a desire to compete, but also there's, an enjoyment of having fun. And I think, at the end of the day, this is the best time of year to watch baseball. We see postseason baseball going on. Those guys in the dugout, they're having fun. They're not pressing. They're not pressuring. They're just relaxed. They're having fun. They're celebrating. They're doing their thing. In my opinion, this is the best time of year to watch baseball because you see grown men doing it for a living, but enjoying it in its purest form, which is the best thing you can do. And that's my biggest advice to anyone is enjoy the game in its purest form, play it the right way, respect the game, respect the people that are investing the time in you, especially, Little League coaches, youth coaches, high school coaches. They're doing it because they love it. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they love it. They love the game, and they want to see kids have that same passion for the game. So, enjoy it, have fun, be respectful, play it the right way, carry yourself the right way, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, I love that because, again, I say it all the time to my players, it's a kid's game. It's a kid's game. Go out there and have fun. Go play the game. Try and create that ESPN highlight. You know what I mean?
Right.
By having fun,
Right.
Being paralyzed on the field is a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
So just enjoy it.
Yes, exactly. I always say they call it a clubhouse, not an office, for a reason, because it's a kid's game.
Exactly. Oh, God. So, Parker, look, I mean, I can't thank you enough for bearing with me and coming back on. This was great. And I think this was better than the first time.
I agree, man. I appreciate everything you do for coaching development, for youth baseball, and for the game of baseball in general. What you do and the platform that you do it on, man, it touches a lot of lives. And I know a lot of people, are big fans of what you do. So thanks for what you do for us in the game of baseball. It means a lot.
Well, you can thank me all you want, but I'm not the one that's doing it. It's you guys. It's guys like you, okay, that come on the show and share your knowledge with our listeners. Me, I just ask questions, right? Yeah. But you guys are the guys that need to be thanked because without you, this show is nothing, number one. And number two, the people that are listening, the youth coaches, the high school coaches that may be listening, they're becoming better coaches because of guys like you.
Like we say, it comes full circle. That's the best part about this industry. It all comes full circle.
It does. So thanks again. And I guess I'll see you'll be there in January.
I'll be there in January. We'll grab a beer, grab some dinner for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All righty, Parker. We'll catch up soon.
Awesome, Jimmy. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Well, it's really clear to me that Coach Parker Lynn's journey to the world of college baseball is really a testament to resilience, adaptability, and really an unwavering passion for the game. Throughout the conversation, Parker shared how formative experiences from student assistant roles to managing athletic facilities and coaching in summer leagues have really shaped his philosophy. He credits his mentors and a lot of hard lessons from his own playing days for guiding his approach, emphasizing preparation, fundamentals, and the importance of letting players develop their unique style. Another one of the highlights of this show was when we talked about recruiting and evaluation. Coach Lynn stressed the value of intangibles like attitude, resilience, and really important baseball IQ. He gave a lot of practical advice for high school athletes hoping to make it to the college level. For him, the recruiting process is really about finding players who fit into Saint Vincent's culture and guys that are ready to grow as athletes and as people. You know, we also went over the unique challenges and opportunities of Division III, particularly the balance between academic commitment and athletic commitment. You know, he let it be known that it's really important to prepare players for their life when they're done playing baseball. He fosters a culture that values both competitiveness and camaraderie and never losing sight of keeping everything fun. You know, the camaraderie came out when he talked about how the upperclassmen help the underclassmen, you know, whether it be tutoring them or just guiding them and helping them to get through the process of playing college baseball. So as we wrapped it up, Parker really offered some heartfelt advice for young athletes and coaches. Focus on fundamentals, embrace the process, and never underestimate the importance of character. You know, I love the way he talked about his most rewarding moments coming from, you know, witnessing players growing and building a legacy that's, you know, rooted in development and also integrity. I know that Parker would want everybody to approach every day with gratitude, keep learning, and have a love for the game on and off the field. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. Keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.